Hey, before we get into today's video, I want to let you know tonight at 7 Central, I will have Mark Kern, former team lead for World of Warcraft, HQ producer for Diablo 2, and all-around Twitter superstar, to discuss the ongoings at Blizzard. Again, tonight at 7, come on back to the channel. So I was going to let this Shreier v. YongYea battle kind of lie where it had lied. I figured that people would have challenged Mr. Shreier far more, and I feel like YongYea, the consummate professional, let a lot of stuff slide that I wouldn't. Now, that's probably indicative of our two personalities just being very different, and for him, it means he'll likely go much further in this industry than I ever will. But I'm gotta be who I am, and I just don't like what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of big people reacting to this, giving Shreier all sorts of heaping praise on the guy, and letting the fact that he came into that stream with YongYea in a dishonest, disingenuous manner just slide. My experience with Jason Shreier is he's a snake. He is a open liar. He knowingly lies, and I will show you these lies. I will show you that Mr. Shreier is extremely jealous of the YouTube audience. It comes through in everything he says, the way he dismisses you, the viewers, the way he cherry picks your comments in YouTube, while ignoring the comments on his own articles on Kotaku, which are heavily moderated, the way he smugly talks down to YongYea in this interview, telling him how to act, telling him that he is a provocateur, which, make no mistake about it, calling YongYea a provocateur is a way to diminish his skills. It is a direct insult. It is not a poor choice of words. It's a purposeful choice of words by a career writer. Calling YongYea a provocateur is to say he is not to be listened to, that he is a sensationalist, simply because maybe the YouTube gaming community will use some catchy titles. So what? Everybody does. Let's get into this.
Looking at it from a perspective of like, I'm one of you, I'm going to get mad and share all your theories and read Reddit posts and that sort of thing, as opposed to like, hey, here, I'm in a position, and this is something that I take very seriously, but I am in a position where I can talk to people and get answers to questions that your average audience cannot. And I take that really seriously and think it's really important.
So here he's basically speaking to YongYea, but also, if you watch the whole interview, he's basically talking about any YouTube commentators in this space, talking about how he's so different. The fact that he is a career journalist and we are games players who also happen to commentate on the industry. Now, I guess I don't disagree with that statement at all, but he's coming from a place where, well, what you do is irrelevant and what I do is important because I can email people at these companies. Now, I'm not going to give you my peer any of these contacts. I'm not going to introduce you to any of these people, which Young did ask him to do. No, I'm just here to tell you that I can do it and you can't.
And I think that we, as a quote-unquote video game community, for lack of a better term, need to, like, when we get this angry about everything, I think it creates this poisonous world where we are hurting a lot of people. And I think that gamer rage is a real problem, and I think a lot of that is caused as a result of not being able to prioritize and not being able to see the difference between something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where it's like, okay, this XP booster plants this idea in my mind, it's kind of annoying, I hate that it even exists, which I totally agree with that, versus Battlefront 2, where you have to pay more if you want to get good at the multiplayer, at least before they removed all the microtransactions. Point being, I think that it's really important to see the levels in this and to not just treat everything as if it is quote unquote cancerous, as if it is exploitative. And that's the things that I was saying on Twitter are that I think when you are screaming, when people are screaming, not necessarily, I'm not going to name names here, but I think when there's this world when we're just shrieking constantly about everything, I think it just creates this poisonous discourse. It leads to just lots of toxicity. It leads to game developers burning out. It leads to hardcore game players just not wanting to be involved anymore. It leads to less people taking it less seriously when there are real problems. It just causes a lot of problems.
So is the implication here that it is the consumer's fault that they're upset about something? I notice how in this hour and a half conversation, you put a lot of blame on the gamers for being mad, but you don't really understand the core reason why. Don't you think it's reasonable? There is the every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? So when the gaming community has to get mainlined hype for months or years ahead of time, okay? When the game marketing tells us this game, when every game is going to be earth-shattering, groundbreaking, game of the year, 11 out of 10, right? When we're marketed that way nonstop, we get hyped. And when the game doesn't deliver on that, you have the equal and opposite reaction. So maybe you should look at how games are marketed as opposed to blaming the consumers for believing the companies that are trying to sell things. And in terms of toxicity and not naming names, I'm pretty sure you're talking about me, Shreier. And let me ask you, what in your journalistic integrity, okay, where in journalistic integrity would you put this statement you made about me a little while back? You took comments from one of my videos about microtransactions. This is what you're referring to. Anybody who had any criticism about the XP boosters in Assassin's Creed, you were actively seeking for. And here we have my comment section with some cherry-picked comments. Anyone know whose YouTube video this is? Some alt-right Gamergate friendly channel called The Quartering. What? Where does... At what point have I claimed to be alt-right? At what point have I claimed any responsibility for what people's free will allows them to do, post comments in their comment section? Do I need to go through the comments on Kotaku and then personally I assume that everything that's written on the next Jason Shreier article you will personally endorse? Or is this just a blatant lie? As we'll keep looking at your many blatant lies, Mr. Shreier.
So I mean, I think that anyone who follows my work would see how preposterous it is to think that I defend corporations in any way.
You mean the very article that brought this meeting to light, where you called YongYea a provocateur for not understanding the in-depth intricacies of how a game engine works without actually knowing what he knows at all, without having any conversation with him? How you dismissed him in defense of Bethesda? Maybe Bethesda isn't a major corporation, I guess.
And it just goes into, I mean, I've looked at your YouTube comments. Like, it's the level of discourse that you have is different than the anger and rage and outrage and just toxicity that I'm seeing expressed by people. And I think that is a real problem. And I think people like you and me with a platform, I think one of our responsibilities, because we speak to these big audiences, is to say, hey, like, maybe you don't need to be so angry. Maybe that anger is not really healthy for anybody.
I'm starting to wonder if Shreier sees YongYea as an ally here and he's looking to leech some sort of viewership off him. But it's interesting he mentions that he's looked at his comments and votes them as superior. When mere minutes after the video goes live, Shreier posts an interesting tweet saying, most of the comments on this video are anti-Semitic alt-right shitbags, which I hope YongYea thinks long and hard about. But this one is actually perfect. So most of the comments are anti-Semitic. Okay, well, let's see how many comments he has. 5,000 comments. Okay, that's interesting. So you would agree, Mr. Shreier, that most comments out of, let's just say 6,000, 3,000 anti-Semitic or alt-right comments on here. Okay, interesting. Which means I shouldn't have to look very far at all to see handfuls of them. Let's see. Since he didn't find anything Yang said to use against him, he used Yang's comment section against him now. I'm not responsible for things anyone else here says, neither is Yang. But he knows that, which is actually makes it worse. Yang, I love you, man, but damn, way too polite. This dude just prattled on from his high horse for an hour and let you talk for like 5 minutes. I was hoping for some back and forth. You got to stand up for yourself and us. Did anyone else notice how much time Jason spent trying to defend his actions? Jason just blocked me on Twitter, so it was a trap after all. So as you can see, I'm not really seeing any comments here. And if there are, again, and there might be, not YongYea's fault, not my fault, how people might react to Jason. It's really an open conversation. If you don't like what some people have to say, then you can exit yourself out of it. The thing is, I spoke publicly about, I didn't say it in a good way, which is why I ended up deleting the tweet, and some of you saw it. But I said, when I saw that Yang was going to have Jason on his channel, I said, I don't know about this. This is curious. And exactly what I figured would happen, happened. When you let a snake in, that's what they do. Snake's going to snake. He immediately smears YongYea after coming on his channel. You tell me, do you think that maybe that was planned? Oh, and all this alt-right this, alt-right that. You know that's just another term like provocateur to dismiss the correctness or incorrectness, really, the validity of someone's statement. Look, anybody with whatever political leanings, you're welcome to stay and have fun on my channel and talk about video games or news. You're welcome to buy my merch. I appreciate you. Just because you have your beliefs doesn't mean I have to subscribe to them, but it also doesn't mean we can't bond over other issues. This is a common theme with people that see politics first and only. They think that, whatever bubble they live in, that people who are, let's say, a Republican and Democrat can't share a beer. That's just not how it works in the real world. I don't care if we disagree about one thing. We can find something we agree on, which might just be that a particular video game is good or a video game is bad, and we can still have a valuable conversation. But I even popped over to watch Layman Gaming, a channel that I think is extraordinarily well produced too, and they also had kind of a crap take about this too. It's like everyone's trying to cozy up to games journalists when they should be realizing that the YouTube gaming community is bigger and we threaten them. We don't need them. We crush them.
Racist in general.
Racist
Nothing.
in general, no way.
No.
Young privileged white man, question mark. So that's number one. Number two, alt-right. Now, we might start, when we talk about things like gender, a lot of people might like to point to coverage of, say, Jessica Price or the recent Red Dead video punching a feminist and say, if you talk about that stuff in the way that you do, you're inviting in the alt-right sort of camp.
Again,
okay?
but I've of course, we've both watched those videos. Never once did he refer to, even with the feminist punching video, he was in the top comment saying, I do not support this type of content. With the Jessica Price, he didn't even, it was not about the gender. He was really talking about her conduct at work. He never once questioned how, if there was nothing like that with Yang.
Yang is not, look, I know channels that are appealing to the alt-right crew.
Sure,
okay? I know the names of them. I'm not going to talk about them now.
Sure,
but they are gaming channels that do that. And I'm sure you know who I'm talking about as well.
So you admit that you watch these videos, but they also invite the alt-right in? Are you confirmed? Layman Gaming, alt-right channel, alt-right YouTube gaming channel? Look, I'm just busting your balls a little bit here. I thought your video was quite good, except for just one bad take, in my opinion. But I have bad takes all the time. And, if you're going to talk for 25 minutes, you might have a bad take or two. I don't like to dismiss anyone's opinion just because of what political ideologies they may ascribe to, as long as it's legal and they're not hurting anybody. That's where I'm going to kind of leave this. But I want to go through a little bit more of some of the interesting things that Shreier has done in his journalistic career, starting with he was actually a member of Game Journal Pros, an active member of that insider shill group that wrote a lot of articles, anti-Gamergate articles. He has, and you can read through all this kind of stuff. Claimed he wasn't contacted for a comment before Original Game Journal Pro's email links when he actually was and was done so publicly. Lied about the results of a survey held on Twitter claiming review scores, which Kotaku doesn't use, were the biggest issue in games journalism. When journalist relations, which Kotaku was having plenty of issues with at the time, had gotten 3 times more votes. Managed to twist Gamergate, catching the harasser Matthias Sosa into an article blaming Gamergate's atmosphere for Sosa's actions. Incited moral panic around the game Dragon's Crown, first on Kotaku, by comparing the art direction of the game's artist and Vanillaware president George Caminati in the work to a 14-year-old boy. After response and some backlash, Shreier doubled down with a longer article which included an apology for his tone, and especially with some infamous forum posts where he accused the game's large-chested sorceress character of inciting pedophilia. His criticism generated much backlash, with his editor-in-chief eventually addressing it, stating Shreier had been misunderstood. Also, claimed that journalistic objectivity is a silly thing to strive for. That's right. If you remember that, this is an archived tweet as well. Nobody at Kotaku has ever claimed or will ever claim to be objective. Objectivity is a silly thing to strive for. But us YouTubers, we should be fair. That's what you told YongYea. You know, and on the spicy titles, which you have a problem with, this article is on Kotaku today. It was published 43 minutes ago. The inexplicable sexiness of Ivy Valentine. Well, geez, Jason, I assume you'll be shiding this article as, alt-right clickbait like you did for YouTubers, right? You should probably talk to Maddie. She's a senior editor, too. Look, at the end of the day, games journalism is just another extension of the corporate machine. There's absolutely no denying that. The people here, this is inevitable when it comes to relying on access journalism, when you require access to early copies to get those early clicks. But the market's changing. People now contact this little channel on YouTube directly, insiders at these companies. So in a few years, you know, Kotaku breaking stories isn't really going to be that often anymore as the YouTube community continues to grow and people continue to want their content in video form. Make no mistake about it, they fear the YouTube community, and that is why they misrepresent it and why they lie about it and why they smear it. I stand by YongYea having him on his channel as a mistake, but I stand in great respect of Young for saying so calm when he had a man basically looking down on him for an hour and a half. Something that I could probably do a little bit better of myself, but I guess I am who I am, and love me or hate me for it. I appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you tonight on the live stream. Talk to you again real soon.